Taha Arvas joins us now from Istanbul. He's a financial columnist at the Daily Sabah. Good to have you back on, Taha. So this case, as we know, has served as a flashpoint in Turkish-US relations. It prompted the US to impose the sanctions that we mentioned. It's brought a shock to the Turkish lira in recent months. I'm wondering, will these sanctions in particular be lifted now that Brunson has been released?
I think they will be. I think it's in the best interest of the United States and for Turkey to get along. They're natural allies. They have been for 200 years, frankly. So this was perhaps the worst in relations ever during that 200-year period. And I think what's going to happen now is the Trump administration will roll back the tariffs, and Turkey will also avoid their sanctions against the US as well.
And all this time, throughout this dispute, the Turkish government has maintained that Turkey's justice system should be allowed to run its course. It seems that it has, to some degree, there's speculation that perhaps a deal was struck between the US and Turkey. But do you think both parties here have emerged victorious?
I think perhaps they will be if there's a middle manager that's currently in prison in the United States for violating U.S. sanctions against Iran. He's a Turkish gentleman. He's a citizen of Turkey. So I think what President Erdogan and what the Turkish government is looking here for is a release for him, because membership in a terror organization in a U.S. court would probably get you life in prison, if not decades in maximum security prison. The person Brunson here is either getting off very easily, frankly, or it's part of a broader deal. As far as justice being served, half of the indictment was dismissed before the conviction was handed down. So that's a huge question mark, that kind of raises questions about how involved this person may have been, or I'm not sure how political that decision may have been.
And what about the impact on the lira? As we mentioned, the lira has lost a lot of value this year, but how much of that was attributed, in your view, to this ongoing Brunson case?
I think a lot of it was, especially in the summer here, because it's part of a larger problem of Turkey having difficulties with the United States, and that's important for more than economic reasons. I mean, the United States has a very serious role in Syria as it is now, and that war continuing, the broader war in Yemen, problems in Iraq, the war in Ukraine with Russia, all of these things affect Turkey. They're all neighbors of Turkey. So being friendly with countries that are involved in these disputes, such as the United States and frankly Russia, are in Turkey's best interest. So having a problem with the United States because of this case was a huge problem. And as you may have noticed, President Trump has tweeted 3 times in the last 2 hours about this very case. So he's very much involved. He will probably be on the tarmac greeting this pastor and using it for a boost for his midterm elections here coming up in a few weeks.
Yes, interesting. Okay, Taha Arvas, great to have you on as always. Thank you.